Roll call.
Copeland,
Here.
McCain,
Here.
thank you. Wertz,
Here.
Hyen,
Here.
Johnson, here. Rust,
Here.
Hanfelder,
Here.
Trent.
Here. Have the Pledge of Allegiance. Join us in a moment of silence in recognition of Trailblazers Tyler Timmons and Jenna Rude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for public comment. And the usual custom is 3 minutes per speaker.
Do I keep this on, sir? Can I move it down, or?
It seems like we hear you better if you could drop the mask. Thank you.
Hi, Karen Zimmerman. I came in front of this board about 1.5 years ago, or 2 years ago, with concerns about why Lewis and Clark was investing in a parking garage in downtown Edwardsville in TIF 2. So at the bequest of your attorneys, I provided a copy of the statute parsed down so it would be very simple to see if they're in compliance or not with state statute, and all the supporting documents to show that they were not. So the question becomes, why is Lewis, have you guys looked at that at all to determine if there's any reasonable justification as to why this college is using Lewis and Clark Community College, the district, to the tune of what, about $1 million to invest in a TIF that was already completed and was very successful? So what the return on that investment would be? I just haven't really heard back from anybody, and it took a substantial amount of work for me to gather all that documentation and also to do that and provide it to your attorneys. So I look forward to hearing from you. It's been 1.5 years. I'm gray now. So thank you.
I wish to share my thoughts about the idea of trusteeship. Trust means having confidence in or reliance on the integrity and character of a person or thing. Typically, such confidence is given by those who are beneficiaries of a trusteeship. My question is whether the Board of Trustees has the trust of its beneficiaries. While they are trustees in name, I wonder whether they are trustees in deed. My answer to this question is mixed because the board is not a univocal entity, but rather governed by a majority of 4 members with their own agenda. Some board members have our trust because they have worked to earn our trust, the employees of the college. Other members do not have our trust because they have worked to diminish the college and its employees and thereby diminish its mission to serve the community. Consider that there was a distinct sense of pride in this institution when recently we were included as one of the top 150 community colleges in the country. There are over 1,000 community colleges. I sense this pride diminishing and the achievements of the past devalued. My evidence of this is the loss of established faculty, staff, and administrators who all contributed to this achievement, as well as to the newly experienced anxiety of younger faculty who feel their contributions to the college are only measured in terms of return on investment, meaning that monetary considerations supersede educational and service-oriented ones. Young faculty ask themselves whether their programs will be cut or downsized because the powers that be deem it to be too costly. There is also an unhealthy competition by faculty to curry favor from the majority, and this divides the college. There is a general loss of trust in this college, which has only happened with the ascendancy of the 4-member majority. This, I submit, is a fact, not a perception. The assumption of a position of power does not grant you the trust of those over whom you hold power. That trust has to be earned by exertions on behalf of the people a trustee serves. This observation raises a further question: for whom does this majority work? It certainly does not look like the employees of the college, but rather an amorphous collection of taxpayers who remain nameless and unknown. So I ask, do taxpayers in the community benefit when the spirit and service of this college is undercut in the name of money? I say no. The jewel of a community is its educational institution, and enhancing its people and its service brings pride in both the employees and the community. So I ask this majority to consider their actions well, and ask not about money and return on investment, but ask about the value and service this institution brings to our community. There are plenty of taxpayers who believe in the value of education, and they would very much like Lewis and Clark to remain the pinnacle of excellence has been. In closing, it must be said that there is one person here who is earning trust with us, the employees, by virtue of his actions, his character, and his willingness to grow the college, and that is President Traska. The board's conduit for gaining our trust is to have trust in President Traska to guide the college. The board is not the leader of this institution. Its role is to enable the real educational leaders to do their work. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Witzkin, and I am a member of the campus leadership team here at Lewis and Clark. This leadership team is comprised of over 15 team members. This group is highly educated individuals who have many years individually and collectively in higher education. It is led by Dr. Traska, and additional members include all of our vice presidents, academic deans, and directors across campus. Tonight, I want to bring your attention to the discussions that have taken place regarding the Manny Jackson Center for Humanities. Several months ago, you all as the Board of Trustees challenged Dr. Traska and thus the campus leadership team to objectively look at the feasibility of Manny Jackson. Together, the campus leadership team brainstormed and discussed ideas. Another key part of our process to assess feasibility of Manny Jackson included feedback from community members and community partners. Dr. Traska facilitated several community face-to-face and virtual forums, which were well attended. The purpose of the forums was to gain insights and ideas for the use of the center from community partner organizations interested in engagement with the center. No feedback received signaled the college should consider alternatives, including selling Manny Jackson Center. Manny Jackson represents an important investment and asset to Lewis and Clark. The property both reflects and defines a central part of the Edwardsville community story. This story links the Edwardsville community to Lewis and Clark toward a guided purpose and philosophy of education, community building, and meaningful collaboration aimed to strengthen inclusivity among all members of our communities. Every member of the campus leadership team who has been in the discussions has had ample opportunity, both publicly and privately, to speak against moving forward with the recommendation for Manny Jackson. Not one of us did. Every one of us gave our full support. We see the value and we see the investment in the college and the community we all love so much. Dr. Traska met with pairs of the Board of Trustees last week to discuss and answer questions about the proposal. As you can imagine, it blew my mind when Dr. Traska called me to ask if I was now against the proposal. Apparently, Chairman Hine claimed that members of the leadership team reached out to him directly to state they were against this proposal. I asked other members, and guess what? We all support keeping Manny Jackson. It seems the only ones against moving forward with the proposal have been specific board members. Why would the board not fully support something that is fully supported by the campus and the community? Is it because you don't want Lewis and Clark to grow into something bigger? Is it because you don't value people in our community? Or could it stem from some personal beliefs that were exposed early in your tenure here at Lewis and Clark? You don't value marginalized populations, you don't value differences. The board recently approved new core values at Lewis and Clark that were vetted by team members, students, and community members. Our core values at Lewis and Clark include student focus, integrity, responsibility, valuing people, diversity and inclusion, and building community relationships. The Manny Jackson Center is a representation of these values. It looks like some of you are missing the mark with upholding our core values I just mentioned. You can do better. We can work together. We can get over the past, get over Dr. Chapman, welcome the new, welcome the vision. Come aboard and stop getting in the way of the rest of us who have a clear vision of what Lewis and Clark can be. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lemons. I'm here just to read a letter that was submitted by Jack Burns, Alderman of Edwardsville. Dear Board of Trustees, it was an immense pleasure meeting Dr. Ken Traska a few weeks ago at the N.O. Nelson Edwardsville campus. All should be proud of both the Godfrey and Edwardsville sites. They had a great deal of character to their respective areas. I particularly enjoyed our conversation relative to the Manny Jackson Center. Dr. Traska expressed many particularly good and creative ideas relative to the structure. I know the city of Edwardsville would love to see this facility become more viable and active. A well-planned and orchestrated agenda will certainly benefit the community and be a real asset to that area. Please be assured that I and the city will do what we can to assist in implementing any future plans for this facility. We and the city residents will welcome and support new activity in this area. Sincerely, Jack Burns, Alderman, Ward 2, City of Edwardsville. Thank you.
Hello, I'm reading a letter submitted to the board on behalf of Sarah Burke-Bigler of the Main Street Community Center. Dear Chairman Hyan and the LC board members, on behalf of Main Street Community Center, I'm writing to request that the Lewis and Clark Community College Board reconsider the sale of the Manny Jackson property located in Edwardsville. The Manny Jackson Center building is an important part of the history of Edwardsville and has served the community as a center of learning and collaboration since the historic Lincoln School was built. With the donation of LC, many in the community understood that the Manny Jackson Center would become a center of development and cultural collaboration, working with the community leaders, organizations, and businesses to foster communication, social justice, and growth in Edwardsville and at the region at large. There's a tremendous potential for LC to lead the development with commitment to the Manny Jackson Center and the historic place it holds in our community. For these reasons, I ask that you reconsider the sale of the building and work with the community and region's leaders, organizations, and businesses to develop and build programs that reflect the history of the Manny Jackson Center and the intent of the donation through which it was acquired. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Sarah Burke-Bigler, Executive Director.
Good evening. My name is Art Rizvi. I am the Mayor of Edwardsville. I wanted to start by thanking you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and also to thank the board members for all the open forums that you had in reference to the Manny Jackson Center and considering all the options. I really appreciate that very much. They were very informative. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Manny Jackson Center, but I was going through the agenda items, and I just wanted to read the background because I thought that it was very well put together. The Manny Jackson Center for Humanities represents an important investment and asset for the Lewis and Clark Community College. The property both reflects and defines a central part of the Edwardsville community story. This story links the Edwardsville community to Lewis and Clark toward a guided purpose of philosophy of education, community building, and meaningful collaboration aimed to strengthen inclusivity amongst all members of our communities. I think a collaboration between District 7, Lewis and Clark Community College, and 501(c)(3)s and groups such as the Lincoln Alumni Foundation would just be an excellent way for the Manny Jackson facility to move forward. And I would just appreciate your consideration this evening. Thank you for the time.
Hey there, I'm Tim Bell, manager of the N.O. Nelson campus in Edwardsville. I've been in Nelson in one capacity or another since its inception. I've seen many changes since then, but one thing has remained constant, the tremendous growth of the Edwardsville-Glen Carbon community. Some of you belong to this great community, so you should know that the more presence we have there and the more collaboration we can do, the better. I'm here to fully support the Manny Jackson proposal. I was glad to be a part of these discussions with the school district and the leadership team, and I can assure you that much time and effort was put into the best proposal for the Manny Jackson Center. Some of you may be in favor of just selling the building, but I would submit to you as advocates for the taxpayer that that would be a waste of everyone's money. This proposal will help gain revenue and return taxpayer dollars, in a sense. As advocates for the community, this is a great opportunity to bolster our standing there with a community that wants us there and would love to partner with us. Just look at this turnout, not to mention the many letters of recommendation or of endorsement. Most importantly, as advocates for our college, this is a tremendous opportunity to help our enrollment through the school district. At last month's board meeting, it was discussed that this is an area of potential major growth. There are some exciting opportunities within the district and the high school, and this collaboration can only help. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to see this leadership team in action regarding this issue. You did a great job in hiring Dr. Trask as president. Let him do what you hired him to do. The vast majority of us are jumping on board, pun intended. If you don't want to look at this as a great investment in the community, which it is, or a tremendous investment in the enrollment growth of the college, which it is, at least look at it as a great investment for the taxpayers. Why sell low? In 5 years, if you think this agreement didn't work, but it will, sell the property then, and then sell high. So, community, college, taxpayers, this proposal is literally a win-win-win. Vote yes, so we all win. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Shelton. I'm the superintendent in District 7, coming to you tonight not only as a superintendent, but as a parent of 3 children who have benefited from the partnership between Lewis and Clark Community College and our public schools. Tonight, you are considering the approval of a license agreement that's going to expand on the partnership between District 7 and Lewis and Clark Community College. We've partnered together for the past 20+ years on the N.O. Nelson campus, offering dual credit courses, and tonight we have an opportunity to expand that partnership. With the approval of tonight's license agreement, District 7 is excited to expand our partnership through the District 7 Center for Learning, housed in the Manny Jackson Center with Lewis and Clark Community College. This agreement will provide an opportunity to expand programming to positively impact students in both institutions and the surrounding areas. The expanded opportunity for collaboration lays a groundwork for collaboration between the 2 institutions in diversity, equity, inclusion, expand opportunities for workforce training, early entry into higher education pathways, and ultimately positively impact all students within our region, both in District 7 and in Lewis and Clark Community College. There are many in the District 7 community that have already benefited from the ongoing relationship between our district and the college, and I'm excited to use that opportunity to be able to expand the work that we do together and the overall impact that we collectively have on the region. Thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to speak tonight and for your support of the partnership.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Grant. I am a professor of speech here. I'm Ward 7 alderman in the city of Edwardsville. And I was fortunate to be involved in the initial fundraising for the Manny Jackson Center. And when we did that, we met with people like Herman Shaw, who's here tonight, and we heard a lot of heartfelt stories about the history of this very important piece of property. I feel like we made some promises when we met with those people. And while the original plan for this building did not come to its full fruition, I feel like we have an opportunity here to make good on some of those promises. I attended some of the forums this summer, and we listened, where Dr. Trask listened to the community, and the community spoke. And then I later learned that we have this opportunity to partner with District 7. I'm no longer a parent in that district. My youngest son just graduated, but a while back I attended a forum when they were looking for a new superintendent. It was like a listening thing, and we were so happy with who we got. And I announced at this forum that I was from Lewis and Clark, and all the people were like, oh my gosh, we need the trades back. And they started like turning this forum to like asking me questions, and it ended up with some of our board members going on a tour of the Fab Lab. And We got them on our campus. So now that we have this opportunity, I just believe that District 7 represents just a treasure trove of potential for our college to partner. And I feel like if we have some shared space by letting them lease the Manny Jackson Center, and we have some offices there too, that we're gonna have this daily possibility of having conversations where we can better serve our whole community together. I also feel like maybe this will be a way to get our trades program back to Lewis and Clark where it should be. So I'm going to steal what Tim Bell said. You know, I really believe in Stephen Covey's philosophy of win, win, or no deal. And I know that that takes time. And the investment that we made by having these forums this summer showed that we were willing to listen. And Dr. Traska took the time to find the best deal. And this is a win-win, and it is a third win. So it's a win for District 7. They need the space. It's a win for us because we're going to be able to pay for this building. We're going to be able to offset the costs. And it's a win for our community because hopefully we're going to be able to have access to that space in the lower level for community meetings. That is a necessary space. Just recently I had a call from the Edwardsville Glen Ed Pantry, and they needed that space for a store so that needy children could come purchase gifts this Christmas. And so, you know, we get requests for that. There are needs in our community, and this building will be a treasure if we allow it to serve those who need us. Thanks.
Good afternoon, and I'm very honored to have the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Herman Shaw. I'm the president of the Lincoln School Alumni Foundation, and I'm really the culprit that was responsible for Manny Jackson purchasing the property, because at the time I had been to all the mayors in Edwardsville and many other people trying to get them to purchase the building, to do something with it before it got into the shape that it was in when Dr. Chapman found it. But nothing happened until Manny stepped up, bought the property, and in partnership with Lewis and Clark, Dr. Chapman put together some type of miracle, I would think, to make Lincoln School what it is today. And I thought then that the kind of people that were at Lewis and Clark were the kind of people that could save Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois needs Lewis and Clark, and Edwardsville needs Lewis and Clark. I mean, if you gave us the building and you weren't in it, or you weren't a part of it, I think that would be a loss for the university, and it certainly would be a loss for the city of Edwardsville. Working with the superintendent of schools, with the city mayor, and with the Lincoln School Alumni Foundation, we give somewhere in the neighborhood of between $50,000 and $60,000 a year to the school district through grants to children and or to programs that will enhance the educational opportunities of children in the school district. This year, we have a program that's helping kids catch up on what they missed due to the virus, the pandemic that we've all been stuck with. And we're putting into that program somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 to help. And this is money that's been given to us. None of us have the funds to do this ourselves. This money comes from donations from the people of Edwardsville. They have the confidence and the trust of us as a foundation. They gave us money to help kids with our parents and families that needed rent paid, power bills paid. They gave us the money to help with those kind of things. Manny Jackson gave us $25,000 to help us with a program that we will put into place very shortly, that it will help all the middle school people and freshmen at the high school. And he gave us $25,000, and we're going to kick in all that it takes to make that program work so that our kids can get caught up. But I think that Lewis and Clark should be in on that too. I just think that from working with the staff, Dr. Tresca and Debbie and Dale and all the wonderful people that I've met here at this university, I think that my confidence or my belief that Southern Illinois will be saved by you is not a vision or not a fantasy. I think that it's a dream that will come true someday. So I just hope that you keep yourselves as a part of the Edwardsville community, which again is one of the most progressive communities in Southern Illinois. Time? Okay, so thank you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Harris, and I am reading this public comment as a proxy for Brandon Bell, President and CEO of the Edwardsville YMCA. Lewis and Clark Community College Board of Trustees. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to have a meeting outside of the Manny Jackson Center. Having just moved to Edwardsville, the facility intrigued me. Looking into the facility, I found a statement on the Lewis and Clark website that I absolutely love. The statement is that the Manny Jackson Center conducts activities that promote mutual understanding and respect among people of different cultures, ethnicities, and religions, while influencing positive social change. That statement is such a positive statement in today's society and is reflective of the beliefs of the Manny Jackson and Lewis and Clark Community College. I am in support of Lewis and Clark Community College keeping the Manny Jackson Center. This center allows the college to maintain another visibility point in Edwardsville and to partner with other community organizations like churches, the YMCA, other nonprofits, and the Edwardsville School District. If an entity like the school district could pay for portions of the facility and still allow for usage by the college and other entities, it would be a large win for the community and for the college. Sincerely, Brandon Bell, President and CEO of the Edwardsville YMCA. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Thank you. Updates, budget health update.
Thank you, sir. So just a general update as I've done in previous months. So talk about revenues and expenditures. So this report is of September 30th, the first report of fiscal year 22, which reflects actuals for 25% of our fiscal year. So revenues, projecting tax base based on final 2020 EAVs. This should remain pretty steady until we adjust at the end of the fiscal year based on our 2021 valuations. State government revenue is projected based on actual fiscal year 21 allocations. Tuition and fees are trending below budget, but keep in mind that projections are based on the percentage of tuition and fees generated through September 2020 in fiscal year 21. It is expected that this will improve as we progress through the year. Same on other revenue. The feeling is that projections here are conservative. On the expenditure side, although it is very early in our fiscal year, projected total expenditures are currently running close to fiscal year 21, final expenditures, and are under budget. So I think as we did last year, we are really focused on being fiscally responsible and focused on the budget that was approved by the board and staying within those margins and doing our best to do that. So any questions, thoughts? I'm happy to entertain those. Thank you, sir. Enrollment update we'll do during the leadership, and there are no introductions for new team members, sir.
Okay, the omnibus agenda, need a motion to approve those. We'll approve them in totality unless any board member wishes to have any one member or one item voted on separately. That's the item number 3.
Yes, I'd like to consider item K, bid information separately.
Any other items you wish to pull to discuss after we vote for the totality of the bills of the omnibus agenda? Okay, need a motion to approve the omnibus agenda with the exception of K, bid information.
Motion.
A motion, do we need a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Call for the vote.
I'm sorry, was the second Mr. Rust? Mr. Hanfelder, thank you. Okay. Copeland,
Yes?
Wertz,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes?
Johnson. Yes. Rust.
Yes.
Now we need a motion to approve the bid information. Need a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about, well, both of them, I guess, because the WLCA is just appeared a little while ago. On the athletic training services, I mean, I'm assuming that's like we had an athletic trainer before, and now we're going to outsource, is that correct?
Yeah, part of that is it's difficult to hire a athletic trainer, so we went down the route of contracting those services until we could identify a full-time trainer. I mean, ideally, we'd like to have a full-time trainer, and typically there's a ratio based on the number of sports and the trainers you need. We've just been unsuccessful. I don't know if Dr. Hill or if Doug's here if they want to speak to that, but that's the main reason we're looking at this service.
Okay, I guess is this like a temporary thing until we can hire somebody full-time?
That's the plan. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the reason I brought it up is I just happened to talk to some students today, as a matter of fact, and they had the one was a soccer player, and then there were some others that's made comments too about not having a full-time athletic trainer and how actually almost dangerous for them not to have a full-time trainer. So, and having different people coming in as athletic trainers, that's not a good option. You really need that, according to what they were saying, you really need to have the same person seeing those people every day.
There are actually pros and cons either way. But what I'll say is we had the athletic trainer position posted for months and only got one application. So we decided to take this RFP route. The advantage of having this is there are also times where we have multiple athletic events happening at the same time. So if we were able to do this contractually through like an RFP, then we'd be able to cover all of our events, because it's also a liability to not have all of our events covered.
It's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been challenging. Doug Stotler has, he's talked to local hospitals, local agencies, local colleges, through his connections through the NJCAA and in the community, and it's, as is the case with a lot of other businesses, many of you work in businesses or business owners, it's hard finding people, and among the areas that have a shortage are athletic trainers. And the one we had, we lost to, I believe, a high school in southwestern Missouri.
Any further discussion? Comments? Call for the vote?
Copeland,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes?
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder.
Yes.
On the agenda, it's time for an open session, but we will not have that tonight because the evaluation process has not been completed, and we will hold the presidential evaluation process at the December meeting in all probability. So, we're ready to go to action items. Need a motion for approval of grant or sponsored contract opportunities.
So move.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyen,
They're not letting me
Yes.
do it.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder.
Yes.
Item B, need a motion for organization restructure.
And this one is focused on our maintenance team. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Need a motion for approval.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to commend the team for all their hard work on these tough things. It's good.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen.
Yes. Item C, proposal for Manny Jackson Center for the Humanities Facility. Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Motion been made, seconded? Been seconded? Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to see this item actually tabled. This is the first time that we've seen this proposal, and I think it would be premature to approve it at this point. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that it needs to be examined further.
Is that a motion to table?
I would, yeah, go ahead.
If that's proper, yes,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to table it.
That is proper. Need a second for table?
So move.
Okay. Call for the vote on tabling.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent,
No.
McCain,
No.
Wertz,
No.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion tabled. Item D, authorize administration to issue RFP for auditor. Need a motion for that.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be something on that order would probably be the result of that, of the study, I guess you'd call it, of developing a policy for rotation of some professional services, starting with the auditor. I mean, generally what I've seen is rotation of every 5 or 6 years, yeah. Or at least consideration of changing.
Excuse me, are you talking about a new firm or rotation within a firm?
Really don't, oh, yeah, I forgot, sorry. I really don't understand why the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants came out against rotation of auditors. I've looked at this a lot, researched it. It seems like there's, for every pro, there's one con, and I don't quite understand it. And since you're a CPA, Kevin, maybe you can help me with this. But very briefly, what the, I want to get this right, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants said, while there's no empirical evidence to support the perceived benefit of mandatory audit firm rotation, there are a number of reasons why required rotation would be undesirable. The most significant are summarized below, which I won't read. Furthermore, it should be recognized that virtually every group that has studied this suggestion over the years, including the Public Oversight Board, Commission on Auditors' Responsibilities, and National Commission on Fraudulent Financial Reporting, has concluded that the perceived benefits of rotating audit firms are clearly outweighed by the associated cost. So as I said, I can see a pro for every con that's out there. I'm not sure exactly who is saying that this is a best practice.
Well, I did, you know, I researched it too, and I saw the same things that you saw, but I also saw a lot of opinions just the opposite. This is not, definitely not a comment on the performance of Schlosser at all. I mean, they've been our auditors for well over 30 years, I believe, maybe longer than that. And there comes a point where a fresh set of eyes is just, it just makes common sense to have to, yeah, there may be a little extra cost, especially the first year. There will be some extra cost and some extra aggravation for our financial people in that. But it's an accepted practice. I've seen it in other organizations, 6 years or so, or at least a policy that says that requires an evaluation of the auditor. We consulted with another community college that actually Dr. Traska did, and they had had the same auditor for over 30 years, I believe they said, long time anyway. And yeah, they said, yeah, there was some pain. They went through some pain changing auditors, but they did not regret changing. They also didn't have anything against their auditors, I don't believe, but someone said it was, I guess their board of trustees decided it was time to make a change, and they did, and they don't regret it.
Well, I was just having trouble with it because it balances out either way. If there was a problem with our current auditors, then I could understand it. But since there isn't, I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
But would this be a Missouri company potentially, or we stay with Illinois companies?
We would be looking, we haven't gone through the process of developing our criteria yet, but I would think that one of the main criteria would be to try to find an audit firm who has experience with community colleges. That will lessen the burden on Mary Schulte and her people, so that because they'll know the rules and that, and so that would be one of the, I think that would be one of the main criteria, but it would almost have to be an Illinois firm, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I've done a little research on this too, and what I have found that when polling Fortune 1000 public companies, most 88% respondents said the overall current view was that do not support requiring mandatory rotation of public accounting because of higher costs, risk of audit failure, and audit inefficiencies associated with rotating the auditor record, among other issues. And the Illinois CPA Society says, we believe the mandates of SB Senate Bill 2270 of completely competitive bid auditing selection and mandatory rotation will diminish the audit quality and do not serve the public interest. Government units are often decentralized departments which have their own policies. Rotation will make it harder for auditors to learn the government entities' business practices and procedures and operations, and it goes on and on. But I think it's going to add a lot of stress to our staff that they don't need, and I don't think the benefits outweigh the change. Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment on this because this is what I did for a living, and I definitely see their benefits. I could see their benefits in practice when I was doing this, that we would go into places that had the same auditors for many years, and I guess it's just human nature. I don't want to be negative and say that people just quit doing their job, but there's just something about having a new person coming in and saying, have you ever thought about doing this before? You know, what about this? So yeah, I agree with Kevin in that. I don't think it's really, I don't want to say anything negative about our past auditors, but I just think it's healthy for an organization to have new people come in and look at what's going on. And that's why I'm in favor of this.
Any other discussion, questions, comments? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent,
No.
McCain,
No.
Wertz,
No.
Hyen,
Yes. Item E, change November 2022 board meeting date. Motion to approve.
So
Second.
move.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
F, amend 2022-2023 holiday calendar. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust.
Yes.
G, combined personnel policy manual. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. Motion been made and second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder.
Yes.
Item H, approve president's request to attend professional conference or event. Motion.
Approve.
Motion.
Second. Good, motion been made, second. I guess Dwight, that was a second, wasn't it? Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Copeland,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Item I, Resolution 22-4 tax levy pursuant to 110 Illinois 805, Section 3-14. Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and second. Any discussion?
I would like to inquire that this is, there's no increase in the levy by approving this?
No, there's
Well,
not. No.
Sir?
No.
No, okay. That was my only concern.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I don't know if I would define it as no increase in the levy.
This is the additional authorization we get from ICCB. We went
Well,
through
we
this.
actually, I mean, we actually didn't approve the full authorization in 2019. 2019, the authorization was 4.05 cents, and we authorized 3.55 cents. That represented a reduction of our property tax revenue by about, according to the chart there, about 300,000. I don't see how we can continue. I mean, this is kind of a bit of an aside from this, but I just have a hard time facing taxpayers that ask me, how is it that we keep paying the same high tax rate or same tax rate, and the enrollment is down, down, down. It's down 70% in the last 10 years. How can that go on? It seems to me like the board needs to start making incremental reductions in our property tax. I'm not talking about wholesale but numbers exactly, but some good faith effort to our taxpayers to show them that we are cognizant of the fact that they are paying more and more for less and less students.
And I would,
is there a deadline on this? Is Mary here?
yeah, there is. Mary's here. Come on up, Mary.
I would also like to express my irritation that this didn't come before the Finance Committee. As it has in prior years.
Well, this was discussed at Finance.
Today?
Not today, but.
It has been discussed
Yeah.
off and on through the years.
Right.
Yeah, it has. There is a deadline to this from the standpoint that before we can pass the levy in December, we have to have a petition available for 30 days. So this is, we have a day or two.
When were we notified about this item?
I provided the rate, I believe, at last month's meeting.
Give me a date. I guess what I'm getting at is, could it have been in the October meeting?
It could have been, it didn't need to be in the October meeting. And
Is there some reason to wait until the last minute?
that
No.
was a choice we made.
Yeah, and we were discussing this, whether or not to bring it forward. We brought it forward last year, and we wanted to bring it forward this year under the same sort of framework that we needed, and we're actually going down a little bit from last year. And we did bring this forward as informational last month, and there were no questions.
And it was in the board book.
Right.
It was in the board book last month?
No, in this board book.
And your point is what?
That if we wanted to discuss it today, we could have.
Yeah, we're discussing it now.
We are,
But
yes.
you told us that we don't have any choice to discuss it later. We have to decide tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Essentially, I guess, yes. We've always made decisions in this window of time, so I wouldn't have expected this to be different.
When we brought it up last month, I had no indication there was any indication from anyone that there wasn't going to be the support for this. So.
I think I did bring it up. And it was obvious that it has been brought up before, and it was reduced before. Looking at 2019, it was reduced.
I mean, the board can technically amend the rate, and I imagine, and do what you feel you want, but we feel this is an important part of our current budget structure. And, you know, to the argument on enrollment, it takes a lot longer than 1 year to turn the enrollment around, and if we take resources away, it takes away from the ability to continue to invest in the team, to invest in new ideas and new programs, which are the things that we're doing. So
there is no statistical support for thinking that our enrollment is going to increase all that much.
I beg to differ, sir.
Listen, Edwardsville School District basically has a stable, maybe slightly growing enrollment. Every other community college, well, there's a few exceptions, but basically every community college is experiencing the same decrease in enrollment. It's just, we can't, it's not our fault, it's nobody's fault. It's just a demographic thing.
No, I would argue we have the ability to control that. If we become truly innovative and we're not afraid to take a calculated risk into ideas such as competency-based education. Now, let me give you an example of how powerful this is. Meeting with legislators the other day, talked about a lot of topics. When I brought up competency-based education, it was the only note he made, saying, I'm going to get back to you on this because this is something we need to be thinking about at a broader level at community colleges. You know, I'm here to change the game, sir, and it's going to take investment. I can't change 10 years ago. I can't change 5 years ago. But I need the opportunity to change the future, and it requires investment. Thoughtful, meaningful investment. The more we trim, the less opportunity we have to really build these new systems and platforms that our students need, that our communities need, period. We're community colleges, but we have to think bigger than that. And, you know, while it's ultimately the board's decision, I'm passionate about this work, and I'm here to help the college grow with resources that can help us do that. So those are my thoughts and my comments, and I think everybody here knows where I stand on this, but I respect your comments, and I get it, but you know, at what point do you stop? I mean, is there anybody in particular that we need to pull back on, where we need to pull back? I mean, I mean, we've got to take a very strategic look at this, and this is what we're doing. This is the work that's been happening this last year, is to get this structure right, to get our investment right, to get what are these programs that we need to be focused on, what are the access points that we need to develop, and that takes resources, it takes talent, it takes energy, it takes passion, it takes people that are enthusiastic about this work. Not saying, well, hey, let's do this, hey, let's drive across country, but we're only going to do it on a half a tank of gas. Figure that out. Or here's $10, go. I mean, we've got to think about this in a strategic way. I mean, if we don't have the support to think about this in big ways, strategic big ways, then, you know, and we heard from students today. I mean, you hear those individual stories, and if that doesn't play a chord to say, wait a minute, we need to keep investing and promoting this good work, then we're just like every other community college. And I think all agree that we want to be part of a community college that's bigger and better than anyone else. And I don't care what the other 47 community colleges are struggling with. I care about how we can invest in a thoughtful, meaningful way into the future of this college. And it requires a confidence in knowing that we're bringing this forward thoughtfully and respectfully because we need it to move forward, not because we're trying to, you know, we want to raise taxes. I mean, and taxes are an investment in our community. I don't know. It's my thought.
We are not holding you back in any way.
Well,
we're not
sir,
holding you back. You have plenty of money to spend on programs and that.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
okay.
Dr. Traska, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Would this be, what we're talking about doing, considered to be the special levy tax?
Would it be considered a special levy tax?
It's considered, and the
ICCB, yeah.
Authorized an additional 4.07 cents.
And Mary, do you want to, could you help me out?
This was from the minutes for last month's meeting.
It was, but, you know, I think the context of why we get this authorization is also important.
It says in these minutes that the board will see a resolution on next month's meeting regarding the special tax levy.
Yeah.
It's in the meetings.
Right, and we qualify for this special tax because we levy at a rate less than the state average.
Right.
And we qualify for equalization grants last year in fiscal year 21 and/or in fiscal year 22. We meet those qualifications because we are levying less than the state average.
So we've had a month notice that we're going to do this tonight. It was on last month's agenda.
Oh, yeah.
That would be next month's meeting. So we've had a month notice.
It was, yes.
Okay, just want to clear that.
And what was do you remember, I forget, just, I'd like to know this too. What was the average number of colleges across the state that don't do this?
I don't recall what it was, but most of them do because it's a key part of the operating budget. Yeah. I did do that survey last year when we were debating about what to bring forward, and this was a new concept with Dr. Trask, and we went over it
Yeah.
at length. So it's been a key part of Lewis and Clark's operating budget for many years. To pull this will leave a hole in the operating budget of a couple $1 million.
And this is also where the tension is between, I mean, if you look on the agenda, there's other items here where, it's all about money. It's all about investment. It's all about, you think about this agenda item coming up that has to do with a tax appeal. And that's, we talked about this last month. That's that double-edged sword. I mean, I met with that partner of ours, and certainly they understand where we're at. But that's a potential loss of $1 million, if that didn't go in terms of favor of us and school district and other communities that are part of that appeal. So, I mean, it's this constant play. It's sometimes an awkward dance. I mean, you got to give a little, you take a little, but you got to find the balance. And I think this would put us way out of balance if we, if we don't continue to keep vested in this part of our operating budget. And last year, too, we had taken a percentage of this, and since we don't have the technology fund anymore, and that's where a big part of our investment needs to be, this is also helping support that in both indirect and direct ways. I mean, it's just going to keep getting more and more expensive. So we may, one could argue, sure, we have to find that middle ground of where Lewis and Clark really is in an enrollment perspective, but it's still going to require investment to serve those students, to serve the community. It's just, I hate to say it, it's sort of the nature of the beast. That's my thought, but, for what it's worth. But I believe in this place, I think, as much as all of you, and I think these sorts of items are about investing. They're not looked at as transactions. I think this is investing in the sustainability and growth of our institution, not the survival of our institution. And that's the difference.
I can't give you any numbers, but, from a student perspective, people are starting to talk about Lewis and Clark. I would normally see students just go straight to SIUE, but now students are talking about going to Lewis and Clark's nursing program, going to Lewis and Clark's radio program. People are starting to talk about it. And I think it's hard to try to knock down statistics in a time like COVID. I'd say, it's kind of strange to say Dr. T isn't doing a good job on boosting enrollment when he's only been here for a year or two. Give him a bit more time, give him a bit more chance. And I really do think students are starting to talk about us. It might not be an immediate increase, but if we give it a little time, we might see an enrollment bump.
And I've been here 1 year.
Sorry.
And I'm gonna thank Julie here, because I think, Julie, you've done a great job of recognizing this work is not easy, and it's not meant to be easy. That's why we're at this table. Looking at a reorg, looking at building a new strategic plan that was really about providing ownership to every single member of our team, whether they accept that ownership or not. It's like, you get invited to a lot of parties. It doesn't mean you go to all of them. But everybody on this team knows that they have the opportunity to bring us forward. And that's all I ask, is that you take ownership in this work, you make thoughtful, meaningful decisions, we're responsible, fiscally responsible, and we focus every day on, is this going to better our student experience? Is it going to better our community experience? Is it going to help us make connections with communities that we haven't been able to do in the past, or we've done, but now we have the opportunity to do it better? So I just think this is an investment in that process that we're continuing along. And, good, bad, or indifferent, enrollment is what it is, but we have the opportunity to build it and to grow. And that's going to take more than just doing things the way we've always done them. And I would say this last year, my sort of gratitude to this team is it can't even put words around it, because people have come together as a team to make really tough decisions. Imagine being at the table where we're talking about you, and you're brave enough to say, hey, I think we should make this change. We have those kind of members on our team. So, if we take away from the ability to invest in that process rather than if we take away the opportunity to invest in that process, then it takes away our opportunity to truly make a difference.
I just have two questions. Can you remind me how they calculate, like why was it 4.09 last year and this year it's 4.07?
That's
Is
a
that
Mary question.
Just some formula? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to. And then also, will any of this technically go into the technology fund?
Yeah, I think last year we put how much of, about 200,
Point, yeah,
200,000 of it.
0.0054 it
Yeah.
says, but do we have any kind of commitment on that this year, or?
Yeah, I think we'd follow the same, that's the plan, follow the same plan.
I will do whatever you tell me.
Yeah. I'd like to put all of it, but I know we can't.
No, you can't. I won't do whatever you tell
I
me.
tried
Yes.
that last year, by the way.
No, but I would be willing, if we passed the full amount, I don't have any concerns about continuing that .0054, which would essentially then push the operating side down just a tad.
Out of the money that we, I think you said 250,000 that we put in the technology fund last year, how much did we use?
I didn't use any of it. I'm actually.
You didn't use any of it. Could you repeat that? You didn't use any of the money in that fund?
I did not use any of the money in that
so
fund
we didn't-
because we still have bond dollars remaining from our previous bond issue. The intention was, as
Yes.
I understood it, was to build money there for when the bond funds were fully depleted. So if I was to spend that, I did not know that. Could I have spent it? Sure, and not use.
But again, that's the strategy. We want to compound these dollars because we know we're going to have the need, so.
You know, I look at the concept that we're putting in blend flex equipment, all going in at one time.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it's going to have to be replaced, and considering it's all of the same age, it could happen all at once.
How was it arrived at to put 250,000? Why not 500,000 or?
Because that was the percentage over and above, I think it was the .355
Yeah.
to where we became.
Yeah, that was actually, 300,000, but anyway,
Well, actually, then we have to apply the uncollectible and the prior year adjustments.
And we have-
In the end, I think we actually were at about 4.03 after those adjustments.
how much technology fund money is in the budget for this year?
Do you know off the top of your head?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, it's in the projection. It's 750,000,
That's
I think.
the Aleutian contract. That's not all technology expenditures. There is another restricted piece, the bond funds, where other expenditures come out of, such as other things, different software packages. Whenever there's an item on the purchases or the contracts that say, technology funds, technology bond funds, that's the funds that are being used.
So would it be your intention to put, or I guess, how much would you be putting in the technology fund this year?
If we pass the full amount, I would do the same amount as last year.
250,000?
I'm actually doing the rate amount, the .0054. So depending on what the EAV turns out to be, what we have for prior year adjustments, all of that's in play.
But I'd say we would be right around there.
I
200
would
to 300.
expect, I don't expect the EAV will go down.
Any other comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes?
Trent,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes?
Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
McCain.
Yes.
J, Taxing Bodies Consortium Membership.
So this is the one that we alluded to here. This is the tax appeal, and this is a tough one. We talked a little bit about this one last month as well, and our hit if we don't, I mean, if this goes the wrong way, the Lewis and Clark hit's a little over $1 million. I had a chance to meet with leadership of Conoco, and we have fortunately a really strong relationship with them, and they understand where we're at. So we're asking the board to approve the college's participation in the consortium, and I think we've put an investment that we anticipated to be. However, if it goes over that, I think, Mary, we'd have to come back. I think last time we went over, but it just all depends. I don't know if you want to say
We'll
any
need a
comments.
motion for
Yeah.
approval in
Yeah.
a second. Have a motion to approve?
So move.
Any questions, let me know.
On J, we're talking about J.
Yes, sir.
We got into the discussion before we had the approval. We need approval, motion to approve?
Okay, discussion?
Sure.
No, to approve. And a second, so we can discuss it.
Second.
Motion to approve the taxing bodies consortium. Anyone want to approve that? If there's no motion to approve or second, do you want to explain it?
Yes, go ahead.
Mary, what happens if the college does not approve the consortium agreement? Does that affect their legal rights in the underlying assessment challenge?
It is my understanding that no, it would not affect the outcome. It just doesn't give us a vote at the table. It also doesn't necessarily put us in the most positive light with the other taxing bodies that are being challenged in this assessment complaint. So, we won't be joining Madison County. We wouldn't be joining Roxana School District. We wouldn't be joining all the other than those that are named in this agreement. Village of Roxana, Wood River Levy Drainage District. We just wouldn't be a part of that.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just there's vulnerability either way.
Right.
I mean, the biggest vulnerability is our exposure of approximately $1.1 million. Because, the issue here is what's happening around the table. And unless the largest entity is willing to be at the table, it really affects everyone else, if that makes sense. We're not the biggest entity, but we're still part of that pie. So if this goes against those entities, then we would take a $1.1 million hit. And that's something that we would have to anticipate in terms of how we budget. It kind of goes back to that last discussion. This is all about, it kind of sounds funny, but $1 million here, $2 million there, I mean, it adds up, but it also affects our ability to stay vested in our focus, in our strategy moving forward. So that's the way I approach this, is that it's a $1 million vulnerability. Are we willing to take that risk?
Mary, can we join this next month?
I believe we could. My memory is that these documents say that we will have to have joined by December 31st.
Yeah, because I think January is the hearing, I think, right? Yeah.
Right. And our vote, it's not one taxing body, one vote. Our vote carries the weight of, basically your percentage claim. And I believe we're the second highest taxpayer.
After Roxana, yep.
I'm sorry, Brenda McCain just texted me. She had actually made the motion, but we just couldn't hear her for some reason. So.
Thank you. So we do have a motion made. We're discussing it anyhow. Well, we need to understand it. If
Right.
anybody has a question, there's, that's why we had that dinner tonight. We were asking for input.
I'll second.
Okay, now we have a second, and now let's continue the discussion. Thank you.
It is a double-edged sword. I mean, it's one of the many double-edged swords that we deal with. I was at the table the last time when we were going through this. It was ugly. It was stated at the informal Zoom meeting that we had when this was more or less brought forward and we were asked to participate. It was hard for all of us to stomach. It didn't really feel real good. So I don't think anyone's excited about it. There's not really a feeling that there's a stomach to go that far again. Of course, we're in a different position than Roxana School District is. They rely heavily, $6 million on this. So can we give up 1.1 and not put up a fight? I don't feel like we can. When we participated the last time, Dr. Chapman and I actually went down and spoke with individuals at Conoco, Melissa Erker, and I believe it was Jay Churchill at the time. And they understood that as a member of the community and as a member of the taxing bodies being affected, that we would join the consortium and play a part and be a good neighbor.
What was the result last time, exactly? I mean,
The last time, and I know I sent that to you in a text,
I've
but...
got it here in front of me.
Okay.
Last time, our legal bills was almost 50,000.
I think it was higher than that, wasn't it?
I thought it was
96,000.
90-some
It says, LC's share of the consortium cost for that settlement was roughly $44.5, and it talks about the college had to return $491,741, almost $500,000. And a lot of those districts that lost couldn't pay the money back, and they had to negotiate with P66 to make payments to return money that they'd overcharged them, which, now that we're discussing this, they hired the same law firm that lost the last time. Don't think that's a good move. And they're saying this time that our expenses should be about 21.7 for the consortium, which I don't understand why it's 21.7 now, it's 44.5 last time. My big concern is we're firing the lawyers up first. I think we should negotiate and sit down with P66 and try to negotiate this down rather than fire lawyers up first and then run up legal bills and then have to pay money back. I think what we did last time is why we need to do something different. We need to do it different this time.
And when I was at Conoco last week and I met with Jerry and Melissa, and I can't disagree with that, but we have to get some others to the table,
See, that's why I could not second this or make a motion, because we're firing lawyers up and we're going to spend legal bills right now, and let's go to court. Well, let's do it different this time. Let's sit down and visit, let's sit down and talk to P66. I know that they're always going to ask for more than they can get. Anybody would do that. So what they're asking for is not what they would settle for. And we could save ourselves a lot of money, a lot of time, not have to be paying money back, and stay a good partner with our corporate citizen. That's why I could not make that motion. I think we're going about this the wrong way. We need to sit down at the table and visit with them, not sue them.
And there were others at the table that did make comments along that same line. There were others around that Zoom table that day that made those same comments. Have we tried to?
I think there are two or three of us willing to do that.
Well, I don't want to get us drugged down.
Yeah.
Why drag us down with other guys?
Hey,
If I could,
I'm not mad about this one. Hey, if that's the direction we want to go, I'll do it.
Let's have Dennis comment.
If I could emphasize maybe on what Dwight said, we've had some of our larger school district clients that in some of the hospital litigations that's been going on statewide, negotiate separately with hospitals, reach an agreement, and sit on the sidelines while the case continues to be litigated in court. So I mean, there has been successes in Dwight's approach.
Dwight, would you, your comment, is that a motion to table?
No,
Second on Brenda's motion.
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay. So you have to vote it. So you can vote it down, and if you want to entertain another motion.
an alternate motion, I would do that.
Or we can table it.
Or then you could. Or you have to
I know, but we can vote, we can table the motion.
table the motion, right?
If we have an alternate motion, then we can start getting to work behind the scenes. I mean, do what we need to do to get to the table, or we wait till December. So we have a month when we have some opportunity to follow this strategy. Or we table it, then we come back in December, then we have the authorization from the board to, or we just don't do it. I mean, I guess, is that it? That we just don't do it, so we go the alternate route? And
We can opt not to do that. The settlement the last time was built around Conoco taking each individual taxing agency and providing a maximum dollar amount that we would be able to collect from them. So that's why the amount that we returned each year varied, depended on our tax rate and where we were. I think my number did agree with what Dwight brought forward. Some years it was smaller, other years it was larger. It was just how our levy compared to that maximum, and it was a slow increase each year. I want to say it was around 1.8, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 increase year over year.
I think they had an agreement on the tax levy. It expired.
Yes.
And that's what triggered this.
Yes, it's been a couple of quiet years.
Yeah.
It expired, a couple quiet
So-
years, and then this came up right about the time levies need to be filed.
Exactly. So what we need to do is go back and renegotiate that levy. We had an agreement with them. Let's go back, work it out.
Yeah, I don't think we're fighting for one way or the other. I'm fighting for $1.1 million, however we protect that.
Okay, we'll vote on this. Call for the vote. If you vote yes, you want to join. If you vote no, we don't want to. Okay, everybody understand that? Okay, call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes?
McCain,
Yes.
Wertz,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Rust,
No.
Hanfelder,
No.
Trent? No. Hyen?
No. I entertain a motion to authorize the administration to negotiate with the oil company on, as you suggested. You want a motion to,
I'll make that motion, sir.
okay? Second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion? You know you have the authorization to go negotiate with them and see
Sounds good.
what you can come up with? Call for the vote?
Copeland,
Yes?
Wertz,
Yes?
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Trent? McCain,
Yes.
Hyen,
Yes?
Johnson?
Yes.
Next item, main complex renovation funding authorization to initiate the process of borrowing $8 million using the PHS nickel levy as a source of debt service payments in order to complete the $12.5 million match sum to support the $37.5 million capital development project to address Lewis and Clark Community College's main complex renovation project. Do we have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion item. I have a question. Mary? What do you see the process of borrowing? Does that mean we just get a line of credit? We're not going, or do we borrow the money if they say yes?
We would have to borrow so that we would be prepared to put our 25% match into a trust fund when CDB requires it.
So what does that mean, initiate the process of borrowing? Exactly, what does that mean?
It authorizes us to begin the work with Steeple Nicholas to begin putting resolutions and pricing, and go through the process. It actually, we're looking for approval to move forward to be able to meet our 25% match.
And this is, so this is an interesting one because we are in some way putting the cart before the horse, but we have to. You know, we hope to send by tomorrow morning, we're just finishing some final edits on the final scope narrative that has to go to CDB. We had 30 days to do that from our mid-October meeting. When we were in that meeting, and this is why this number doesn't reflect 6.3 million, it reflects 8 million, is we were essentially warned that the investment that we should anticipate to have to make would be a little bit higher due to increased costs. So we want to have a little bit of buffer here. So we just want to begin the process, and then once this scope goes in, our understanding is that there will be an advertisement for this project through CDB for architecture and engineer. And once all of this gets approved, I think, you know, and this again, wishy-washy dates, but probably within 6 or so months, we would have to have these dollars accessible to put in a trust for this project. And that's why, you know, it gives us an extra month to sort of get the ball rolling. So,
When the time comes.
Mary, I thought at last meeting or meeting before that you said we had enough cash on hand to fulfill the $12 million. Can't we give them a letter and say, we have the money on hand and we'll pledge that? And then if we then get the money from the state, then we can borrow money. I hate to borrow money and be paying interest if we are, you know, until we get the money in hand from the state of Illinois.
We will not get their money in hand. Right. We will never touch their 37.5. They will control that in Springfield. What will happen, and again, this is much bigger than any of the projects we've had before, is I will suddenly get a trust agreement dropped in my email that we need to fund and send back, fund $12.5 million. So what I'm trying to do is not delay the start of the project at that point in time, and not delay the project from starting because we have to start a process then.
Well, do we have the cash on hand? I thought that's what you said. We had $12 million available.
And my plan always included $6,250,000 in new money borrowing.
yeah, that was the special board meeting we had.
Mm-hmm.
And we're asking for more than what the board saw then, just because of, after that special board meeting, we ended up getting the meeting with CDB, and they said, hey, you know, the cost of this project could be a little higher. So, so they just gave us that warning. You know, we don't have to agree with them, but
right.
I think I'm going to take their word for it and say I'd rather have the additional money on hand rather than have to scramble a year from now.
Right. And the way this is presented in the format that we have presented, it would use that nickel levy that we have been using to pay off the 2014 issue as the source of the debt service for this particular bond issue. So it would not raise the rate. It would be the nickel to the nickel. So it would give us access to the dollars we needed within the existing tax limitation.
We won't be getting the $35 million up front. They'll parse that out as the project progresses, won't it?
No, they're going to give it one shot, is what they said. It's all, this thing moves forward in one shot.
Right. The condition of the building, the documentation that we have, they would authorize the full project at once.
And we did ask that question, sir, during the meeting with them, if we could do this in phases and how this money would, and it was, no, it's all going to be one shot. So, We asked that question multiple times. For that very reason, if there was a way we could sort of phase this in, it would make it a lot easier on us financially, but that's how they operate. And that match that we're talking about fundamentally is going to be a lot of the sort of additional costs, your architecture, engineering fees we're going to have obviously some reserve that we may need to access, and then additional fees. There were all sorts of 1s and 2%, and we have all that outlined, but that equals about $12.5 million.
So
Yeah.
this PHS nickel levy, it's not an increase to taxes. It just will not run off like it would have.
Right.
When
Yes.
would it have declined?
It would have declined in this upcoming year.
2022, I think we always said, right?
So we finished, yeah.
Right. We will pay it off in November of 2022. So actually, our levy that we would file this year would not have been for the full nickel otherwise. So from that perspective, this is a good time to also bring this in because you don't see the wave.
How long would this go on then? What time limit would this levy be?
How long?
Like, how many years?
Right, and that would depend on the rates, but I believe, did I put a measurement in this item? But I believe the money we borrowed in 2014, so it'd be 7 to 8 years, and we borrowed 11,000 back then. So I don't pretend to do the pricing that they would do. My guess would be 4 to 5 years, just based on 8 million at $2 million a year would be 4.
So we could kind of look at this as our investment in the community, because we're taking these taxpayer funds to remodel this building that's a pillar of the Godfrey community. This is
Right.
be all the pain we'll have from this, right?
I mean, we could potentially, you could do an independent bond sale and not link it to this nickel, but I feel like we have a win if we can use the nickel that's already there and get the money we need for this match.
How would you pay the interest on an individual bond sale?
We'd have to go, it would have to be on the bond and interest levy.
Yeah.
That's why I think this is a way to accomplish
Yeah.
what we need to accomplish without
raising.
driving that rate up.
Is there a possibility of getting a line of credit from a bank like Busey Bank and give that letter to the state of Illinois, that they'll give us the $8 million whenever we need it?
It's not, I'm going to have to be able to put the money in the account.
You talked about the tax rate not being affected by this. Did you go over that schedule with Tom Crabtree?
Have I gone over the schedule? He
Yeah,
has provided me with a calendar, some rough numbers. I haven't.
Yeah, it's, and there's a schedule that shows what our tax rate is projected to be each year.
That's independent of the nickel. He's monitoring the bond and interest levy there.
But that schedule would have taken into consideration the paying off of that 2014 bond issue.
No, because it's within the nickel.
Huh?
That spreadsheet is tracking the bond and interest levy, not the PHS nickel levy.
The schedule I'm talking about actually is a conglomeration of all of the bonds that we have outstanding and the interest and the tax levy on, the total tax levy to service those bonds. And that schedule showed that our tax rate was relatively steady, wasn't really decreasing until sometime in the future. And that schedule also would have taken into consideration the paying off, which would have been the reduction, the 7 cents reduction of our tax rate from that particular bond issue. And as I recall, we accelerated the repayment of that new bond issue to take into consideration that amount of levy, that amount of money. And so that our tax rate was projected to be steady, assuming that the 2014 bonds were paid off. Now, if we add bonds, I think it's going to bump our tax rate back up again. I'd like, I mean, we can't decide that right now, but you need to run that past Tom Crabtree. Yeah.
We've had a number of discussions as to the different models we could employ to meet these requirements, and the nickel would be within our existing rate.
We're not going to come back and have to have 9 million and 10 million. I mean, it was 6 million to now it's.
I don't know what.
I hope not. I don't think so.
No, but I can't commit to that because, you know, just like last month, I had to come to you and ask for $50,000 because the bid came in too high on our foundation project. What I'm trying to do with that $1.7 million is to have that ready so that we don't have to suddenly turn, you know, I think we're not talking 50,000 here. Now, could we get lucky? Possibly. I asked the question, what would happen if we did not need this? What would be our options? Our options then would be to either use it on other PHS projects and deferred maintenance that we've identified here on campus, or we could pay off debt service early.
Right.
So, yeah, I understand you're trying to do this so that we have the money ready on time. I understand.
I'm trying to have a win-win for everybody here.
Yeah, but my concern is we already went from 6 to 50 to 8. Are we going to go to 9 to 10?
That was a number we just shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a number, a nice round number. What do we think?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know, Julie.
Where's the limit? Where's the cap?
So we have the ability to control some of this as well. So once the architect and engineer is hired, you know, then we really dig into the scope. And so, you know, the idea is to have a team on campus that would help focus on this. And let's say, you know, we go out for bid and, you know, it comes back at $48 million, and then obviously we can't do that. We have to then reduce the scope and make those adjustments necessary because we only have so much money. It's sort of like going to buy anything, just to pick anything, and if you don't have, I mean, if it's way out of your budget, either you do it and you pay the consequences, or you just sort of reduce the scope of what it was you're going to do. So that's where we would have the control. The reality of this is that whatever happens, it's 75-25, right? Isn't that the?
It's 75-25
yeah.
until we reach
Right.
50 in total, and then it's 100% on us.
Right, right. So,
It's once your public commitment that you know that you need to be cognizant of how much we're spending. And and so I don't want you to come back next month and say, oh, we need $1 million more, and oh, you know, in 6 months we need $1 million more.
yeah,
I mean,
no.
we just.
And I also don't want to have to keep coming to you and saying we need $1 million more, so now we have to issue bonds for.
No, that's
What's
the
that
last
happy
thing.
medium? I need 6.3 right now. Beyond that is.
Yeah, and that's
you know,
where this is the sort of the ask now, like, and we may not need it. I mean, obviously, when we start to really focus on this scope and make decisions about what we're doing, that's all going to dictate ultimately what the number is going to be. And if the number comes back higher, I mean, you never know. I mean, folks will bid for this, and and then if it comes back higher, then obviously we have to reduce the scope. If that makes sense. So we'll have control there. So we're not going to come to the board and say, hey, we want you to approve. It's actually $42 million. You know, so that means we're over what? We're over, you know, $5 million or so from the, because the project is $50 million, but it's really not, you know, because there's, I mean, what's the percentage of, it's about whatever, you know, I mean, that matches essentially all the fees that we're going to have to pay. So you're really looking at it, honestly, a 37-ish, $38 million project at the end of the day. And so we have to make sure that whatever we decide to do is within the scope of that budget, with contingency built in so we don't go over. And contingency is typically about 10%. So if you want to go more down that rabbit hole, essentially minus 10% of that 38, so about 3.8 million is contingency. So really the project's about 35 million. So we're going to try to stay within that range. So, yeah.
Mary, if I may, do we have any correspondence from the state outlining this requirement?
We do not have anything in writing. We had meetings that were attended by Dr. Trask, myself, Lori Artis, and Chris Palda, along with members of CDB, ICCB, and the state budget officer.
We have nothing in writing?
We have nothing in writing except for the fact that we've been awarded a $37.5 million project.
And I would agree with you, sir. It is, I think I said this to Mary the other day, it's just like the strangest process. I mean, like there's, the meeting with CDB was big. I mean, that means that this is moving forward. So we'll submit our scope tomorrow. Like I said, finalizing the edits, and then at that point, it's in their court, and we would get, I think, an announcement that we're going to see an announcement for A&E, and then we'll move forward. And so we hope perhaps by even the spring, we would be able to start moving forward with this in a more formal way. I know we're not going to deny that it's kind of a weird
It's
sort
not
of process.
fun, right? It's actually better, though, than it used to be. So.
Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Copeland,
Yes?
Wertz,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Hyen, Johnson,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
No.
Motion passed. L, personnel.
this is the action item you requested based on the closed session, so there is no action. I assume.
Yeah, no action on this. Okay. Informational items.
The only one I'd like to address, sir, is G. So when we get to G, I'd like to speak.
I think when you get to G, we've already discussed that and tabled it. I would like to ask you to withdraw it.
If I may respectfully ask, I'd like an opportunity to speak. I did not get a chance to speak when Trustee Russ spoke, so.
No thanks.
Thank you for the support.
You're welcome. Thank you for your support. Informational items? You're the one that normally handles that, Dr. Tresca. You-
Everything's outlined there. I think if there's any questions, let me know. So if there are any.
Okay, no questions. We'll go to leadership team reports.
We'll start with academics and operations, finance, under student affairs. Dr. Jackson's going to speak a little bit about enrollment. Hear from Debbie, we'll hear from Gary, and then I'll give my report.
Hi there. My report's going to be very quick this evening. You saw in one of the informational items, I gave the board an update on new career and technical education programs, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. The only thing I'll add to that update is we recently received information, and Kevin Rust sent that to me as well, on Microsoft offering a free cybersecurity curriculum to community colleges and offering scholarships along with that. So Dr. Michael Sundblad, who's here with us on Zoom tonight, is working with Lewis and Clark faculty on looking into that and getting on board and providing that free curriculum to our students. So we're very excited about that. We're also, as I've told you in the past, CBE welding is ready in the spring, and Dr. Melissa Batchelor is working with Dr. Michael Sundblad as well on competency-based education in early childhood. We're also doing a lot of work with our local high schools on things like teacher education pathways, transitional English that allows students to go directly from high school into our college level English. And we're setting up, Dr. Sue Serwinski just finished setting up a CNA program at Jersey Community Hospital in Jerseyville. So we're really trying to follow up on a lot of community outreach that Dr. Traska is doing to make sure we're meeting the needs of our high school districts as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jill.
just have a few quick items for the board tonight. Just wanted to draw your attention. You should have received an invitation today, probably from Sue. We are continuing our work with Interact Communications, and we have our focus groups set up for those 8 different constituent groups. The November 18th and 19th, we'll be hosting those on campus with a virtual option. Those constituent groups represent leadership, including yourselves. That's the 9:30 to 10:30 on November 18th. Our working adults and general community, part-time and adult students, high school students, area business leaders, high school parents, full-time students, and Lewis and Clark team members. So this is all, the focus groups are being conducted just as a reminder as a part of our brand refresh, as well as helping us guide our future iteration and design of our website. Just a few things related to COVID to update everyone on. We're continuing our shield testing. To date, since starting our shield saliva-based testing on October 11th, we've provided over 1,600 COVID tests here on campus. During the month of October, we had 11 positive cases from on-campus testing and 12 positives reported off-site for a total of 23 during the month of October. We continue to see a few positive cases here each week. We currently have, I think, 4 total positive cases and 18 individuals. That includes students and team members in quarantine, and that's really kind of stayed pretty consistent over the past few weeks. We're not seeing any increases in case numbers or outbreaks on campus. And just want to note that with the holiday this Thursday being Veterans Day and Thanksgiving break coming up, as well as the holiday break in December, we've had to adjust some testing hours, so we have communicated that out, and it is available on our website. Our team members are currently at 78.8% in terms of vaccination rate. We have 511 team members who are fully vaccinated, and our students who are taking classes in a face-to-face environment, we have 2,150 students who are completely vaccinated, and that is about 64% totally vaccinated rate here on campus. So any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Mary, you got anything? We've seen you enough.
She should sit closer.
I wasn't sure anyone wanted to hear anything else from me. But at this point, I'll put things on the lighter side and shift gears and talk about just a few general things. Over the last few months, I've mentioned a time or so about our manager of grant operations in the finance department. Stephanie continues to work hard to stand up this new arm for finance and for the college. Many years ago, there was a grant handbook started, but it was never finalized or distributed. Stephanie's finished this handbook, which talks about grant responsibilities, getting started with grants, grant personnel, grant spending, grant budgeting, etc. She's now working on setting up a Blackboard site with grant-related information that can be accessed by all grant managers and fiscal individuals. Introductory meetings are underway with the grant managers. And if you're a grant manager behind me and you haven't heard from Stephanie yet, you will soon. Last week, our office also sent out a large number of notices to students with missing Social Security numbers. This is done in preparation for 1098-T processing. It was an in-the-face reminder to us that we're actually drumming up for all the fun that year-end reporting has to offer. We're looking at January in the new calendar year, 1098-T issuance, 1099s, W-2s. That's always a fun time for us. And up the sidewalk from Erickson, you'll find Destiny in the Bursar's office. She's preparing to share her space with Cassie Emery, a new team member joining us later this month. Destiny's been working on a comprehensive physical document management protocol for the Bursar's office. It's to streamline document retention and reduce the amount of paper that we've been keeping in the office. As Destiny says, this was a fancy way of saying she's typing a list of all the crap we have and what we will do with it from now on, and getting rid of a lot of crap with the intention of never having this much crap here again. So, so far she has filled 2 roll-off bins of documents for destruction that have been removed. So if there's any questions about anything I presented in tonight, earlier, or this moment, I'll take those now. Otherwise, this concludes my report.
Thanks, Mary. Dr. Hill and Dr. Jackson, if you could, anything on student services? I know, Dr. Jackson, you're going to talk a bit about enrollment, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Good evening. Just a quick update on enrollment. Currently, we have 848 students enrolled, which is 57% increase from where registration was last year this time. So we're excited that we will continue to see increase. Majority of our enrollment does come between the time of January, when we come back from the holiday break, to the time that classes actually start. So that's when majority of our students enroll. I took a look at it, and just from last year, we had 1,585 students enroll from the week of December 20th to January 31st. So just to give you guys an idea of when our students are actually registering. Registration has been open since October. However, students seem to like to wait until the absolute last deadline to actually enroll in classes. So our Blend Flex courses have shown to be beneficial. Right now, we currently are enrolling for the spring 22, and right now we're looking at about 40 Blend Flex courses. So we are continuing to look forward to those. A huge increase and a push looking towards the CBE education as well. And then targeting our adult learners with additional certification and some of those quicker programs that they can finish and get into the workforce. Some initiatives that I have been working on, I have scheduled meetings with some of the area principals just to make sure that we are providing the best service for them and to see how we can partner with them, as well as creating an action plan for each school district just to make sure that we are meeting their needs for what they need for their students. Right now, I also am I have a meeting scheduled next week with the Madison County Employment and Training Department to meet with them to see how we can partner with them as well to get some of those learners that come there and some of the population that they target as well. And then working with Dr. Val Harris as well with some of her adult students just to give them other opportunities, to let them know that there are other opportunities out there. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
So a very quick update. I just want to touch on athletics for a second. So our men's and women's soccer teams just finished their season over the weekend with losses, unfortunately, in the district championship. The winner of the district championship game ended up in the national tournament. So we lost both of those games 0-2 to Iowa Western Community College, which kind of stings a little bit. And then also, just in case you're keeping track of sports, men's and women's basketball just started. There's a women's basketball game that I think just finished about right now. And then our scrimmage seasons for baseball have ended, scrimmage season for softball has ended, and also volleyball has ended. Regarding student activities and events, first I want to thank the board for the board dinner that happened earlier today. I spent a lot of time with the students that were in that room in terms of student athletes and student leaders. They were grateful to have the opportunity to talk with you directly and to give their opinions to you. And on a lighter note, one student was thrilled to be at her first dinner where she got to use 2 forks. The small things, small things. A few things coming up on the horizon. So I've been working with a counselor in order to plan some mental health training for staff members. That'll be in the spring semester. So again, we're looking at ways to help our faculty, staff, and students be better prepared to deal with students who are dealing with crisis situations and emergencies. And as I've mentioned to this group before, it's been a very hard year on students and their families, and on many of you as well, with COVID and other things that have been happening in the world. There is a blood drive next week that's being sponsored by the Veterans Club on the 17th from 10 to 3. So again, come out and support that if you can. Also, while I'm talking about veterans, thank you to those of you who are veterans who are served on the board for your military service. And then For sake of time, I'll just say our student organizations are planning a few more events to finish out the semester. We're looking forward to having some things happen, possibly dance, a few other cultural events on campus, and then also looking forward to having another board and student dinner where the students have the opportunity to talk to you about what they're interested in and what their desires are for this campus. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Debbie, a couple things.
Sorry about that, Dr. Hill. I guess my report could really just be 2 words. Capital campaign, who's with me? Any questions? Really quickly, last time I spoke to you, I mentioned that the Strategic Planning Committee of the Foundation is working on aligning the Foundation's strategic plan with the college's key directions and aspirations. That's been completed. A drafted document has been sanctioned by that committee and will be presented to the Foundation Board of Directors at our December 15th meeting. Part of creating that document was to provide examples of funds or accounts that the foundation holds and how they would be able to contribute to an aligned key direction and foundation goal. And the Strategic Planning Committee has asked that we expand that and create a document that goes into detail on each and every one of the funds held within the foundation, its purpose, its balance, and the amount that can be spent from it year after year. So that will be a future tool that I'll be excited to have in Dr. Traska's hands so that he can easily see what resources there are in the foundation that he can use to leverage public support, additional private support, or whatever that is needed. Last time when I spoke to you, I mentioned that our scholarship application process was in play, and it remains so. The deadline for scholarship applications is March 1st. We will have an early review process for students coming out of high schools, graduating in May, who are at the top of their classes, and we will evaluate those applicants in January and give them an award in February for those who qualify. Other than that, the fundraising activities for this charitable time of year include requests of our Giving Society members to renew their memberships. I'm happy to say that to date this calendar year, we have a 100% retention rate of all of our Giving Society members, and many are in this room tonight. So thank you all very much. Additional fundraising vehicles will be a Giving Tuesday team member campaign and a year-end appeal letter that we send to current donors, to alumni, and community members who value Lewis and Clark Community College, its mission, and what all of you and us are doing for it. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie.
Well, I had a few sort of serious program issues I was going to discuss tonight, but this has been such a serious meeting. I wanted to end on an element of NGRIC happiness tonight, and one of our valued family in NGRIC, Ted Krasner, many of you know Ted, is the proud father tonight of a baby girl born during this board meeting. So if you know Ted, tell him congratulations. Thank you.
So I'll wrap it up, and I'm going to start by thanking the leadership team and the community and those who came out tonight to advocate for our Manny Jackson Center for Humanity. And I hope that with some future discussion that we can get this to the board and make a meaningful decision. But I just really appreciate everyone's efforts, and it's all I wanted, sir, was an opportunity to thank the team, because it's been a lot of work, and we have a great opportunity here.
Mover team reports.
All right. Well, I wasn't finished with my update, but you know what? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I mentioned earlier that he was sick, so sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
This concludes our business for the evening. We are adjourned. Thank you.